Commissioners, welcome to the February 25th, 2026 meeting of the Clark County Charter Review Commission. If you would please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioners. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ottaguame,
Present.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Present.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Here.
Chair Erickson,
Present.
Secretary Garber,
Here.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Here.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Here.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Here.
Commissioner Jay,
Here.
Commissioner Klein,
Here.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Here.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Here.
Commissioner Benton,
Here.
Vice Chair Haas,
Here.
and Commissioner Silliman. All present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. We'll now seek to approve the agenda. There is one addition that we would like to introduce under new business. The very first item, we would like to discuss possibility of meeting on March 31st. You may recall that in our first meeting, we voted not to meet that week on April 1st. And we would like to have a discussion around meeting that week, but on a different day. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Commissioner Jay, I would like to approve the agenda as amended.
Benton, second.
Is there any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved as amended. We'll now move to open public comment.
I do have one hand raised online. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Hello, I hope everybody's well. My name is Bradley Branham, and I'm commenting on the ideas for the charter changes mentioned in last week's meeting. In particular, which were great ideas, I might add, but in particular, I'm interested in the election integrity. I hope the intent of this endeavor is depolarization that includes a definition with measurable quantities. Short of statutory guidance, though, I suggest that the Charter Commission form a study group to achieve this goal. I will email the chair 2 research documents from the National Institutes of Health and the Heritage Foundation that might be useful in clarifying what you mean by the phrase election integrity. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate the work you guys are doing.
That concludes public comment.
Thank you. We'll now move on to approval of our February 18th, 2026 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes as written. Ottaguame.
Second, Chrisley.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, our February 18th, 2026 meeting minutes are approved in their current format. Thank you. We'll next go on to executive committee reports. I'll start. In our last meeting and in prior meetings, we mentioned that CVTV was going to be doing a story on the Charter Review Commission, and that today they would be conducting interviews of myself and Commissioner Gasquet, as well as filming part of our meeting. The interviews of myself and Commissioner Gasquet did proceed, but they had a scheduling conflict and will not be here today, but they have rescheduled for next week. And one clarification that they made that I'll pass along is that they'll be capturing video only and no audio. I also would like to share some comments regarding our work plan subcommittee. We want to clarify the intended scope of the work plan subcommittee so that the record is clear. As discussed in earlier meetings, the subcommittee is tasked with process-related matters concerning the amendment, deliberation, and adoption process, timelines and deadlines associated with that process, and public outreach. The subcommittee will not handle amendment proposals in any way. It will not review, evaluate, group, narrow, make recommendations regarding amendments. Its role is limited to administrative and logistical aspects of the work plan and does not have any delegated authority to act on behalf of the commission. While there were some initial good faith discussions regarding whether the subcommittee is subject to OPMA requirements, the subcommittee will proceed with the intent to comply with OPMA. I also like to personally express my appreciation to Commissioner Garber in her work as this body's secretary. I can tell you with firsthand knowledge that she is doing a great job on our behalf. She works behind the scenes in good faith efforts, and I appreciate her efforts in that, including her recent efforts to act on behalf of the executive committee to gather information in support of making informed decisions. Finally, I'd also like to publicly thank the county staff that support this commission. I also am aware that a lot of effort goes on behind the scenes by not just attending these meetings, but ensuring that we are well supported and prepared for our meetings. So thank you very much. Okay, well, let's let Commissioner Garber make some comments, and then we'll go to Commissioner Haas.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I am doing another public service announcement here, just a reminder to my fellow commissioners about the importance of when you receive an email communication that you do not hit reply all. It's best just to start a new email if you're concerned, but do not hit reply all. It creates real issues and could set us up for OPMA violations. We want to be very careful with that. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garber. Commissioner Haas.
The only thing I wanted to bring up is the work plan work sessions have been scheduled for two of them for March 5th and March 10th at 5 p.m. And those will primarily be online, I believe.
Yeah, hybrid. So in person and available online. They have been publicly noticed, and those meetings will be held in compliance with OPMA. Anything else, Commissioner Haas?
No.
Thank you. We'll next move to comments by staff. Michelle, is there anything that you'd like to share with us?
None today.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments by Kathleen or Chris? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll next proceed to our first and only business item under old business, which is to take up where we left off on the work plan. Michelle, if you could please put up the amended version of the work plan on the screen, please.
Can I ask, you had amended the agenda to talk about March 31st prior to the work plan?
That was going to be under new business. Yes. First item of new business. Okay, thank you. So what's up on the screen? The work outline, specifically the portion that deals with amendment deliberation and adoption process. This body has approved steps 1, 2, and 3. We've already completed step 1. That was in our last meeting. Since then, members of this body have started to act upon step 2, which is to fill out the intake form and submit it. And then later in our meeting today, we will be starting with step 3, first readings. We would like to take up a discussion about the adoption of the next step and other steps that this body is prepared to entertain. Is there any discussion on the next step of the work plan?
Mr. Chair, I would like to move that we approve step 4 of the work plan as proposed on the screen so that we can keep moving forward with our process.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
A second, Benton.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve step 4, which is titled second reading, as shown up on the screen. Is there any discussion on that topic? Go down the line here. Commissioner Landsberg.
Okay, so my question on this first reading, second reading is if a charter amendment doesn't go through today, if we take a vote and it doesn't go through, is that the death of it or does it get to come back? Do we get to have a chance for committees to meet and talk about it and then come back with more information and make another proposal?
That's a good question. And I don't believe you're alone in asking that question. And that would be an excellent topic for the work plan subcommittee to address, to determine how an amendment could come back to be considered secondly, a second time rather.
Because at this point in time, without that in the plan, I don't want to, it's hard for me to vote on the rest of the process if I think it's going to die a death on day one based on a vote.
Understood. And I don't think you're alone in having those questions or those concerns. The work plan subcommittee is likely to take that up and put some definition to what that process would look like. Mr. Holgren, did you have your hand up?
The main comment I have on this section is the majority vote requirement. It seems early to set the standard at a majority vote, in part because of what Commissioner Landisberg said. We're at the point where we won't have language on what these proposals actually look like. And so I don't know if something should need to have majority support before we send a proposal off to a committee to study and develop language for it.
Thank you. Commissioner Alaguami.
Thank you, Chair. In our last session, this body had indicated a desire or willingness to have the work plan subcommittee take up the rest of these items in the plan. And so I'm curious why we would be seeking to approve this next step without having that committee convened. And correct me if I'm wrong, if the committee has had a chance to meet and bring back language or modifications, but I believe that had been our intent, right? So I don't see a need for us to approve this next step as of yet until we get that feedback.
Okay, thank you. We'll go down the
address
line
that if
here.
you'd like.
Commissioner Silliman, then we'll come to Commissioner LeBrant.
To address your concerns, the work plan, Mr. Chair and group, because our work plan subcommittee did get delayed because it's scheduled as an OPMA meeting, approval of this section allows us to move forward without delaying the process. We covered last week that we voted as a group to say the work plan rules are only subject to majority vote. So we can even come back and amend this section later simply by majority vote. So you're not locked into it. My concern is that we do keep the door open to moving forward. A lot of people have a problem visualizing how this process works. Has everybody been to like a work session as opposed to a hearing? So you have staff presenting to the council or some other group. It's less formal. It's a presentation. There's questions and answers. But at the end of the session, you still get a majority vote from the council to say, yes, proceed in this direction. So that's kind of my vision of what this is trying to convey is it's very informal. It's not like our bylaws discussion where it's very technical and you're talking about specific language. It's a general presentation by the sponsor, maybe co-sponsors. We give them feedback, but they still have to have a majority vote at that point to proceed because we're giving them permission to come back again and take up more of our time. So I think that's why that majority vote language is there, is just to say, yes, we want you to come back and present more and answer our questions. So I hope clarifying what that might look like helps with the process.
Thank you. Commissioner LeBrant.
I'll just actually echo what Commissioner Ottagueme said. We've stood up the work plan subcommittee at our previous meeting, and I think we should allow that work plan subcommittee to do the work that we have charged it with doing.
Commissioner Landsberg, you've spoken once. We'll see if there's anyone else who'd like to speak first before we come back to you. Commissioner Jay.
Thank you. I would hate to see that the work plan or work study group is used as an opportunity to delay this commission. And so I would like to move forward with at least adopting the next step, but I would also like to amend this to move even further and to adopt the plan in its entirety with a combination of items 6 and 7 with the executive team piecing together a proposal of how we can combine those to reduce that vote.
Are you offering an amendment to the main motion?
Yes.
Okay, your amendment to the motion is to approve the entirety of the work plan, but with step 6 and 7 merged. Is that correct?
Yes, and this would still give the opportunity for the work study group to propose alternatives.
Okay.
Question,
Is there a second to that?
a question to that. Does,
Okay,
but-
let's firstly, if there's a second to that secondary motion, is there a second to that secondary motion? I will second it myself. So then we'll take it to a vote to decide if we want to approve the secondary motion, which is to not just approve step 4, but the entirety of the work plan, understanding that step 6 and 7 would be merged and that further refinement would occur within the work plan subcommittee. Michelle, could you please do a roll call vote on this? I'm sorry, let me come back. I'm premature on that. Thank you. Commissioner Donnelly, yes.
yes, my question is, I'm inclined to support this, but only if changes can be made after the work plan. It could be subject to change after the work plan subcommittee meets and makes its recommendations.
So the work plan subcommittee would bring information back for this body to consider. Work plan subcommittee makes no final decisions on behalf of the body. It would contemplate options for this body to consider
Yes.
and present. And then all final decisions would rest with this body. And the option exists to even amend them after the fact later.
So the answer is yes. If the current motion is approved, this draft would be subject to change based upon the work, the recommendations, the suggestions of the work plan subcommittee.
It is very much amendable, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, before we vote on this amendment, I appreciate the opportunity to provide some comments. I don't think we're quite at that point, and my intent is not saying that we need to delay the work of this commission. I agree we should continue to move at a pace that helps us get into this work in a timely manner and not spend too much time on it. But I just want to, echo my previous comment about the work plan subcommittee and the fact that it was in fact impaneled in our last session to do this work. And B, I think there are some concerns about the process that we have as is. So I'm glad to hear that modification is possible for this process. I think we need to bring part of the step 2, where we are identifying co-sponsors, into this public forum. I would like to share comments on that later in the meeting. But I can't support saying, let's approve the whole plan and work from a pro forma and then go from there. It seems like we should really get the work plan subcommittee's input, or at least some sort of decisive input on direction before saying we're going to go ahead and start and then have to scroll it back and attempt again, given further modifications.
Thank you. Commissioner Haas. Okay. Commissioner Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that it's pretty clear that the vote on approving the entire entity is premature, as we can tell by the questions of the committee, whether we're going to come back and modify it. And I'll vote yes, but only if we're able to come back and modify it later. I think that's going to slow down the commission as a whole. I think maybe approving 4 might be it. But if our intent is to move forward with first reads tonight, it sounds like we want the subcommittee to do some work on this and clean up some language, bring that back, and then we can approve the whole piece. I don't think it slows down this body at all, because we can still move to first reads, and that's going to take up quite some time with reading and clarification questions. So I think if we table the vote on this and let the subcommittee do their work on what they had agreed to do. I think we still continue to move forward without any delay. And I think that seems like that would satisfy everybody on the body. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Landsberg.
So another question I have is two of the amendments that I am proposing could easily be done next year. There's no pressure to put them on the ballot. It's not about a tax issue or some specific little amendment to the charter. So before we take a vote on whether we want it, is there a way to say we're proposing this, but we want to defer the committee's time till next year so that other more pressing issues can be done now?
That's a great question. There is some brief reference to the ability to defer amendments to next year, but putting more explicit language to that topic, I would envision is very much within the capability of the subcommittee to put more definition to that topic.
You mean the work subcommittee to say that we could do these issues next year? In particular, like the clerk for charter amendment that I want to propose should never be on the ballot this year. I wouldn't put it forward to be on the ballot this year.
Thank you. Commissioner Haas.
We're looking at all the words on the plan, and it's my experience that no good plan survives first contact. So I think we're going to end up wanting to change some things as we actually work through the processes down the road. So we need that ability to come back and change the work plan with the work plan work group. Frankly, I'm thinking that we're starting to get paralysis by analysis, and I would be in favor of moving forward with adopting the plan.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Klein.
Chair, I would like to suggest that pertinent to Commissioner Landisberg's inquiry as far as when to intend that the sponsor should indicate on their proposal what ballot year they want their amendment considered for it then to go into the vault. That would be a clarifying point, and I would go on record saying I'm in favor of this amendment.
Thank you. Commissioner Holmgren.
I feel like when we've talked about the work plan, each section of the work plan has brought up a significant amount of discussion, some confusion, lack of clarity. I think adopting the full work plan without having had an opportunity to have that discussion is premature.
Thank you. Commissioner Gasquet.
We have 16 proposals already to get through a first reading. I think we don't need to worry about the rest of the work plan. But reading these, voting on them is going to take up the whole day. So I don't think we need to be discussing moving forward with the work plan. We should just move forward with what's been already adopted. Do our first readings, do our votes. I'm assuming more proposals are going to come through since the deadline was kind of short. So we're still going to have more to read next week. The subcommittee's meeting next week. I think we'll be able to have some answers by the following week when we'll be doing our second readings.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Klein, before we come back to you, we'll see if there's anyone else who would like to comment for their first opportunity. Commissioner Jay, I believe you've already spoken first as well. Commissioner Hamlick.
I am going to second what Dorothy said. I think that we have plenty to do today and probably next week. I don't know why we have to rush through the work plan. That's my opinion.
Okay, I am listening to the comments, and I was the seconder to the amendment. I think the comments are well stated, and I'm in agreement with it. And I'd like to remove my second, which I think, unless there's someone else who would make a second, then this motion doesn't move forward.
I will second.
Okay, all right, then we will go to a roll call vote. This is on an amendment to the main motion, which is to approve the entirety of the work plan, understanding that step 6 and 7 would be combined, and that the details would be further refined by the work plan subcommittee. Would you please call the vote? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Ottaguame,
No.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
No.
Commissioner Erickson,
No.
Commissioner Garber,
No.
Commissioner Hamlick,
No.
Commissioner Chrisley,
No.
Commissioner Landisberg,
No.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
No.
Commissioner Holmgren,
No.
Commissioner Benton,
Nay.
Commissioner Ross. Hotz, I'm
no.
sorry.
No apology needed.
Commissioner Silliman.
No.
Okay, that's 3 ayes and the remaining nays.
Okay, the motion fails. We're back to the main motion, which is put forward by Commissioner Silliman, which is to approve step 4, second reading as shown. It's been seconded. We've had some discussion on it. And if there's no more discussion, then we will take it to a roll call. Commissioner Holmgren. Yep.
I have one further question, which I think is coming up in this discussion of how busy we are, which is in the process of moving to second reading, will we be scheduling second readings or will they just be as they're approved at the next meeting?
By approving step 4, it allows for us to schedule them. So in today's first readings, those that are approved for a second reading by meeting the minimum 5 vote threshold, the sponsor will be asked if they'll be prepared to make their presentation at the next meeting. Okay, I believe on this motion, Commissioner Ottaguame, you've spoken. Commissioner Jay, on this motion, I don't think you've had the chance to speak. You spoke to the amendment. So if you would like to speak to the main motion, please.
I'd just like to speak in favor of this motion. We have been adopting this plan one step at a time, and I expect that next meeting we'll probably adopt section 5. But nevertheless, I think it's important that we do this as when we do the first readings, what's going to happen to that pool of work. We need something where it can go so we can keep moving this process forward. So I will support this motion, and I do think it's important that we all support as well.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to speak in favor of the motion. We should keep this process moving. We've got a lot of work to do. We've been here for 2 months already, and we're not even through the work plan. So we should keep this process moving. All this does is say, hey, we can go to the next step and continue to do the people's work. So I'll be in favor.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Landsberg and Commissioner Ottaguame, I believe you've both spoken to the main motion. So before we come back to you for a second and final comment, is there anyone else who has not yet made a first comment? Okay, Commissioner Ottaguame, your final comment on this motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to echo Commissioner Gasquet's comments from the prior motion that was on the floor, which was the amendment. That being, we do have a lot to get through today. We most likely, more than likely, will have a lot to get through in our next session as well, given that there will be more proposals that come in. I don't think we necessarily need to worry about the rest of the work plan, including step 4. So I'm generally against this motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Landsberg.
So I don't know why, as a group, we don't do what they did last time, which is to form committees before we start voting on whether we even think a proposal is the right thing to do. I think we should do a little more deeper dive before we say yay or nay.
I believe there were a number of votes that were taken before they got to the point of forming us a committee. Is that correct, Commissioner Gasquet? Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other comments, then we will go to a roll call vote. The motion on the floor, which has been seconded, is to approve the next step of the work plan, step 4, second reading as shown on the screen. Michelle, would you please call the roll, the vote?
Commissioner Ottaguame,
No.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
No.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Yes.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Aye.
Commissioner Landisberg,
No.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
No.
Commissioner Holmgren,
No.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Commissioner Haas,
Yes.
Commissioner Silliman.
Yes.
Ten to 5 yeas, 10.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. So step 4 of the work plan is approved, second reading. Today in our first readings, those that are approved for our second reading will be asking the sponsor whether that will be prepared to make their presentation next week. Okay, we'll now move on to new business. We'll go to the first agenda item, which was included via amendment, which is contemplation of a meeting on March 31st. You may recall in our very first meeting, when we set our meeting schedule, April 1st, which is a Wednesday, was discussed as presenting a conflict. And we voted that time to not meet that day. However, as we've discussed today and in past meetings, we do have a lot of work before us. And the need to continue to meet on a weekly basis is before us. Staff has confirmed that this room is available starting at 5:30 on Tuesday, March 31st. And the proposal is to call for an additional meeting of this commission to meet on Tuesday, March 31st at 5:30, rather than to not meet that week. Is there any discussion or a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to host a meeting on the 31st of March at 5:30 until 7:30. And
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded, Adegwemi.
Okay. Any discussion? Commissioner Klein.
Quick question on why we're starting at 5:30 versus the usual 5 o'clock.
Availability to get the room set up. The logistics of making this room available in the current configuration and staff availability. Commissioner Holmgren.
Were other days discussed and unavailable?
Yes, and that was the only available date and time that week. Thank you. Okay, there's been a motion and a second for us to meet on March 31st at 5:30. Are there any opposed? Mr. Landsberg? You're
Yes.
opposed?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we will go to a roll call vote. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Adegwami,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Erickson,
Aye.
Commissioner Garber,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Aye.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Aye.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Nay.
Commissioner Jay,
aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Aye.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Aye.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Commissioner Haas,
Aye.
and Commissioner Silliman.
Aye.
14 to 1.
Thank you. Motion carries. We will then meet on Tuesday, March 31st at 5:30, and we'll ask staff to please make the necessary public notice. Okay, we'll next move on to our next item of news business. First reading of proposed charter amendments. Thank you to the commissioners who have submitted completed intake forms. Before we begin, I'll make one comment, a couple comments. As our work plan calls for, this step is to read the intake form into the record. It's not a time for advocacy or opposition, although you will have an opportunity to ask one clarifying question. I'd ask that your questions not be posed in a way that implies advocacy or opposition. The question would be presented to the main sponsor with the intent of asking for clarifying information, and the response from the sponsor we would ask also be neutral and not intended to imply advocacy. Secondly, the intake forms do have a place where a sponsor and optional co-sponsors can be identified. In our last meeting, we had concept disclosure discussions where people are given the opportunity to vocalize interest in certain amendment topics. And that allowed for these intake forms to be completed in an OPMA-friendly manner with sponsors and co-sponsors identified. Out of an abundance of caution, going forward, we will ask that intake forms be completed with just the main sponsors identified, and that when your amendment comes forward for reading, for the first reading, in those meetings, we will allow for the sponsors to ask for co-sponsors to be identified in our meetings. If if today a first reading gains the necessary 5 affirmative votes to qualify for a second reading, I'll be asking the sponsors if they'll be ready to present at our next meeting. Additionally, I will be reading the intake forms for the first reading, with one exception. If I am listed as a sponsor or co-sponsor, then I will let Commissioner Haas do the reading of that particular amendment.
Clarification, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Silwan.
Since there are several individuals that have posted several proposals, they're probably not ready to present all of them next week. Could I suggest that if they are approved, that the sponsor could contact the chair to schedule rather than trying to ask them if they're ready next week?
Yeah, well, I'll ask, and if you would prefer to schedule it, if you want to defer scheduling that till later or do it offline, then that's fine as well.
Okay.
So an acceptable answer is yes, no, or I don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later.
All right.
Okay. So we'll begin first. You'll notice that the amendments have been given a reference number. The format is 26-XX. The XX is referring to the specific amendment number, 26 referring to 2026, with the intent that we will use that same format for amendments that might be brought forward next year. Okay, so I will begin with reading the first reading of amendment reference number 26-01. Primary sponsor is Kathy, Commissioner Garber. No optional co-sponsors. The title is Clarifying Nonpartisan Office Elections. And before I keep going, Michelle, I just want to confirm that you have this up on the screen. So, okay, thank you. This amendment proposes changes to Article 6, Section 6.2, Offices Designated. This proposal changes the last sentence of Section 6.2. Elections for the offices shall be conducted in the manner provided for partisan local elections under state law. The amendment language to read, elections for these offices shall be held in accordance with the procedures established for nonpartisan elections under applicable law, except that both the primary and general elections shall occur in even-numbered years. Purpose and policy intent of the proposed amendment. Section 6.2 is a contradictory section. It allows the executive and legislative offices to be nonpartisan, yet still elects them in the partisan manner. Under current procedures, when only 1 or 2 candidates are running for a countywide nonpartisan position, their names appear on the primary ballot and subsequently advance to the general election ballot. The top vote getter from the primary is listed first on the general election ballot. This approach reflects a partisan method for electing officials. The proposed amendment seeks to address this by stipulating that if there are only 1 or 2 candidates, they would bypass the primary and proceed directly to the general election ballot with their order determined by lot drawing. Like all other nonpartisan elections, if there are 3 or more candidates, their names will appear on the primary ballot in the order determined by lot drawing. The 2 candidates who receive the most votes will advance to the general election ballot and be listed in order of number of votes received. Because voters approved a change to make elected officials nonpartisan, officials should be chosen through a process that reflects this, and the primary should be skipped only if 2 candidates are running. Elections should still take place in even-numbered years like partisan ones, as Voter turnout tends to be higher during those periods. This change could save Clark County approximately $70,000 whenever there are just two candidates by eliminating a race the county is charged for and redistributing the cost to other jurisdictions. The affected charter sections, Article 6, Elections and Districts, Section 6.2, Offices Designated. Commissioner Garber, have I correctly read that?
Yes, you have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any factual clarifying questions? Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Garber, for proposing this amendment. I just have a quick question. If in theory that we were to move forward, or this commission or future commissions were to move forward with making some of our council and executive races in odd numbered years, would this amendment still apply, or?
Well, no, I would not suggest that my amendment would happen in odd number years. I think that, I think even number years is what I am suggesting.
Okay.
Commissioner Gasquet.
We actually had this discussion last time with the auditor, and he specified that we should keep it in even years.
Thank you. Commissioner Alaguame.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to ask where the approximately $70,000 comes from, just where that data point is from is all.
Sure, I thought somebody might ask me that. So when an election is billed for, they take the total cost of the election and they look at all the jurisdictions participating. And then they figure out how many races for each jurisdiction. And they are charged based on the allocation of how many races or measures each jurisdiction has. So for in 2022, there was a race that had 2 executive offices, candidates only, and they were on the primary. I reached out to the elections office and asked if the county did not have that race, what would the difference be? And they said it would have been 70,000. And that was, 4 years ago. So
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Are there any other clarifying questions that anyone would like to ask? Okay, seeing none, we will then determine whether there are 5 affirmative votes that would like to advance this to second reading. We'll do that with a raise of hands, and then we'll count the number. So if you are in favor of seeing this amendment move forward for a second reading, you can raise your hand.
right. Unanimous.
Okay. 15 votes in the affirmative. This amendment does move forward for a second reading. Commissioner Garber, would you like to potentially have this as in a second reading next week?
I would like that.
Okay. Okay, well, moving on. Commissioner Benton.
Just a clarifying question. At what point in the process do you want people to identify if they want to co-sponsor any of these? Is now the appropriate time, or?
So that comment, we certainly could, we can go back and we can ask this, Commissioner Garber, but because some of these many of these intake forms have already been submitted with co-sponsors identified, that comment was with respect to future submissions. But since we brought that up, Commissioner Garber, you submitted it with no co-sponsors. I assume that are you seeking co-sponsors now?
I would be willing to have co-sponsor or 2 on this.
Okay, so the hands being raised are to become a co-sponsor in this. Commissioner Klein, Commissioner Landesberg, Commissioner Gasquet, Commissioner Holmgren, and Commissioner Alaguame. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a concern with this that I would like to raise, but I want to raise it at the appropriate time. So when would that be?
What is the nature of your concern?
The nature of my concern is that if there are only 1 or 2 candidates, I favor them appearing on the ballot for the purpose of informing voters that these people are running.
Yeah, Commissioner O'Donnell, I would say that your question is appropriate during the second reading.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to the next amendment, which is 26-2, also submitted by Commissioner Garber. The title, Creation of a Public Advocate / Ombudsman for Clark County Citizens. This amendment proposes to change Article 8, General Provisions, Section 8.13, Ethics Review Commission and Oversight Office. This proposal would provide an additional FTE that reports to and support of the Ethics Review Commission. This employee would follow the established standards of the United States Ombudsman for the functioning of an independent, confidential, and credible review process to aid in the investigation and resolution of complaints and inquiries about county agencies that fall outside of an ethics violation involving Clark County government. Purpose and policy intent of proposed amendment. The public advocate would serve as an impartial intermediary between citizens and general Clark County government. Charter section affected. Article 8, general provisions. Are there any factual-based clarifying questions? Commissioner Alagueme.
Chair, just a clarifying question, as I try very hard to make sure that we don't use acronyms without explaining them. Just want to clarify, FTE is full-time employee. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Thank you. FTE means full-time employee. Commissioner Chrisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just be curious to know of where the funding for a full-time FTE would come from, as well as who would hire this ombudsman. Would they be assigned by the county council? Would they be hired by the county manager? Where would this person come from? Those are some questions I would want to answer if I could give it full support.
So when I was writing this, a lot of the particulars, I was kind of waiting to see if there were other amendments that would handle ombudsman, public advocate. The money would come out of the budget and would have to be appropriated for. My understanding, it would be part of the, this person would work with the Ethics Commission and be independent of the county manager or the county council and answer to the Ethics Commission. It's not working.
Yeah, just get a little closer.
Oh.
Okay, are there any other clarifying questions they want to like to ask? Okay, seeing none. If you are in favor of Amendment 26-02, moving forward to a second reading, please raise your hand. Seven affirmative votes. This does qualify for a second reading. Commissioner Garber, would you potentially be ready for this to be, to have a second reading next week?
I would really like to postpone that. I understand that there are a couple others, and I'm hoping that we would be able to maybe combine them. And at that point, maybe I could kind of take mine back. So I would like to wait.
Okay. And on that topic, that's an appropriate refinement of the work plan that the work plan subcommittee can take up. Commissioner Garber, are you interested in soliciting co-sponsors?
Sure.
Is there anyone in this meeting who would like to identify themselves as a co-sponsor? Commissioner Alagueme.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to Amendment 26-03, also submitted by Commissioner Garber, with a co-sponsor, Commissioner Gasquet. Title, Increase in County Council Salaries and Compensation. This amendment proposes to change Article 5, Section 5.5, elected official salaries and compensation, and update to 11.2. This proposal eliminates 5.5 subsection A and revises the section regarding executive elected officials to include council members. These changes would not affect the section regarding the salary of the sheriff, judge, or or the prosecuting attorney. 5.5.A would read, quote, beginning in 2027, the salary of a council member, assessor, auditor, county clerk, and treasurer is $173,310, which that number is then shown numerically, which is the current salary and shall be adjusted based on percentage changes established by the Washington State Salary Commission for state legislatures on the effective date determined by the commission for legislative salary adjustments. This proposal would also update section 11.2 to read as, quote, "The salary and pay schedule for council members beginning January 1st, 2027 shall be the same compensation as assessor, auditor, county clerk, and treasurer, and shall continue until the completion of their term as calculated in accordance with section 5.5A. Purpose and policy intent of proposed amendment. The original charter amendment that increased council makeup from 3 commissioners to 5 council members was created while also reducing the wages of the members of the council to make the amendment more cost neutral and more apt for citizens to pass. The purpose of this proposed amendment is to increase county councilor salaries and make them more equitable among elected officials. Council members with a full-time salary enable them to dedicate their efforts exclusively to their roles. Additionally, this approach broadens the pool of potential candidates to make it feasible for highly qualified individuals who might otherwise be deferred by financial constraints to seek office. Charter section affected Article 5, elected officials' salaries, compensation, and Article 11, transitional power provisions. I didn't ask you this on the last one, but Commissioner Garber, I'll do it here. Did I correctly read that?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Are there any clarifying questions that anyone would like to ask? Commissioner Landsberg.
How much is the council currently being paid?
That figure is their current salary right now. Oh, the county council. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Jay, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, answer the question. It's about 70,000.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other clarifying questions? Commissioner Garber, I would ask one. Could your amendment be potentially worked to be married up with a companion amendment on local term limits? In other words, if this were to pass, could it make reference to or be conditioned upon the passage of a local term limits amendment as well?
I would be willing to listen to that, depending on what the term is. And I'm willing to, I know that there are other commissioners out here with ideas about compensation. I'm willing to work with other commissioners on just one complete amendment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, thank you. I'm not certain if this is a clarification for this amendment or for staff. If you could remind me, in one of our prior sessions when we spoke about ethics, we talked a bit about when someone might need to recuse. And I'm curious if someone actively running for county council would need to recuse from any discussion or voting on this amendment proposal.
Well, that's a fair question. Chris, could I ask for your input on this? If I were to restate the question as I understand it, Commissioner Adequame, you could tell me if I have misspoken. Our bylaws include a clause on ethics and discusses recusing ourselves if we stand for personal gain. And I believe your question is, given that we do have members of our commission who are seeking other offices, and that this amendment discusses the compensation for one of those offices. Your question is it either appropriate or required based on our bylaws for members seeking office for county council to recuse themselves from this vote?
Thank you, Chair. That's a good restatement of the question.
Okay. Chris, I know we're putting you on the spot a little bit. Would you be able to offer some input?
Just a little bit? Sorry. Yeah, I had not considered that previously, and so would have to look into it. It's a good question.
Okay.
And I would not do my research based solely on your bylaws. There is state law that is relevant to this.
Okay. For the purposes of today's vote on this particular first reading, do you have any guidance on how members of our commission should proceed?
I personally would not vote on it today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other clarifying questions?
I just wonder whether we should defer voting on this until next week, until we get a clarification.
Okay. Let's go down the line here. Commissioner Klein.
As presented, this is a single topic proposal. Marrying the term limit would be a two-topic proposal and could muddy the waters and reduce the chances of the voters understanding it and voting for it. My suggestion is for there to be two proposals and not to marry them. Just as a first impression on that.
Yep, thank you. Okay. Commissioner LeBrandt.
Speaking of having two items to mention, I'll echo Commissioner Klein's concern about, whether or not that could be, having two issues could be an issue. But also in the absence of legal guidance, I think it would fall to the person potentially voting, to the individual voting, to consider whether it behooves them to vote on potentially their own pay raise and how that could look. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other clarifying questions on this particular amendment? Commissioner Jay?
Yeah, I would agree with what Commissioner Klein mentioned regarding comparing this with a voter term limit or a term limits for the office, and would rather, if we're going to pair with anything, it would be more with added responsibilities within the office to justify the cost. But so I would recommend keeping those two separate for now in terms of term limits and compensation. Thank you.
Thank you for clarity. And I don't know if I may have misspoke, but the intent was to inquire whether or not, and some research may be required to know if this is possible. If this particular amendment as a standalone amendment could be worked in a way that its passage then is conditioned upon term limits. In other words, that the two go hand in hand, two separate ones, but that's a separate topic, point well taken. And it doesn't need to muddy the waters on this particular topic. Okay. So in this particular case, in the past, in our just recent prior votes on prior amendments, a raise of hands was asked in the affirmative, which didn't allow for a commissioner to indicate whether they were abstaining. So in this case, what we will do is proceed with a vote and ask and allow for commissioners to say yes, no, or abstain in their vote. Yes, no, or abstain.
Chair, if I may, generally, when you're recusing in a forum of this setting, you would need to leave the room during the vote. You wouldn't abstain from the vote. It's a recusal, so you're not in the room when it happens.
Commissioner Haas.
I would like to move that we table this until we get legal guidance as to our next step.
Second, Commissioner
Second.
Jay. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we table the vote on Amendment 26-03. Are there any opposed to tabling this vote? Okay, seeing none, the vote on Amendment 26-03 is tabled. Commissioners, according to my clock, it's approximately 6 o'clock. I'd like to entertain a motion for a 5-minute break.
I move to take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Commissioner Jay.
Second at Landisburg.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. We will reconvene at 6:05 p.m. Thank you. Commissioners, welcome back. Call our meeting back to order, 6:05. I do want to make one comment. On our agenda today, we have several items that have appeared on prior agendas. It's clear that we're not going to get through all of our first readings today, but we do want to make sure that we get to some of these agenda items that have persisted on our agenda. So at some point, we will be pivoting away from first readings so that we could get to some of these other topics that.
Or we could limit the amount of time that the chair speaks about the first topic reading.
That's it. Okay, we will pick back up on amendment reference. On first readings, we'll now go to Amendment 26-04, submitted by Commissioner Garber.
Mr. Chair, could I just suggest, do people need this read? Everybody has a paper copy, or they can read it probably faster than you can read it aloud. Is there a requirement that we read it aloud and take the time to do that? Or
That was the intent. We have people online, we have the public who is also either viewing it live or reviewing the recording.
But they're provided with all the documents too.
Yes.
Okay. If you'd like to make a motion on that, we could, but the intent was that these be read. I think the ones that we've read so far are maybe longer than some of the others.
Okay.
Okay, we are on Amendment 26-04, submitted by Commissioner Garber. Title, provide ASL interpretation services and other accommodation at council meetings. This amendment proposes to change Article 2, the legislative branch, Section 2.5 Rules of Procedure. This proposal mandates that American Sign Language interpretation services be made available at county council meetings. Additionally, it requires that the ASL interpreter be recorded so that their interpretation is included in meeting recordings, which are posted and archived in accordance with OPMA requirements. Purpose and policy intent. Article 2 of the Americans with Disability Act mandates that local governments offer, quote, auxiliary aids and services, end quote, except when providing them would be an undue burden. For individuals who are hearing impaired, their services may include sign language interpretation or real-time captioning. Real-time captioning only works well if speakers speak directly into the microphone. The microphone works well, and if there is no other sound interference. Captioning alone poses challenges, as many individuals in the deaf community find it difficult to read captions due to ASL's unique sentence structure, time, topic, comment, which differs significantly from English word order. Commissioner Garber, did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And I failed to mention that the charter sections affected are Article 2. Are there any clarifying questions that commissioners would like to ask? Commissioner Landesberg.
Are there any other parts of the county that do this, like the court system?
Not presently.
And you said council meetings. Does that mean when they have a workshop meeting, you're not including that?
I'm not sure what the OPMA requirements are for workshop meetings and sessions. I was just referring to the main county council meeting.
Commissioner Klein.
Is there an estimated cost to this service? Have you fleshed that out?
No, my plan is to research that and come back to this body and give them a cost regarding this.
I would like to suggest that that information be provided for another first reading and table this for a vote.
Is that, okay, we'll come back to that. Are there any other initial clarifying questions? Mr. Klein, were you making a motion? Was that a motion that you're making or a suggestion?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Seconded in Landesberg.
Okay, so the motion is to table Amendment 26-04. It's been seconded.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes.
So we've agreed to a first reading as part of our work plan. And I mean, based on my reading of the parts of the work plan that we've approved so far, we might move toward a vote and then bring up the potential discussion around what structural changes might be made in that second reading as part of that presentation.
Well, I believe the reasoning for the table, and whether it be with respect to our bylaws or changes to anticipated changes or recommended changes to the amendment itself, the motion can still be made to table it. The vote can still proceed based on that.
I mean, the motion itself probably isn't out of order necessarily, but we do have the work plan set up and we are moving through the work plan. I think there's validity to the questions that are coming up that probably should be reserved for that second reading. So that's my speaking to the motion.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Holmgren.
Yeah, I want to second or kind of follow up on that. I think it's the wrong time to be tabling this because of concerns about the content of the intake of the proposal. That seems like the time we should be having that discussion is the second reading, not the first reading.
Okay. Commissioner Chrisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think to their point, I think there just needs some clarification around the first reading one, right? And I think bringing up questions of clarification don't even necessarily require an order by the sponsor at this time either. They're more of take these questions back because you know those are going to come in the second reading. So it only takes 5 to advance from the first reading to the second reading. So if I ask a question such as, what is this going to budgetarily cost us? I don't necessarily expect an answer from the commissioner at this point. But when they come back for second reading, we better have our ducks in a row. We better know what it's costing, how it's costing us, who's paying for it. That should just be a given in any type of amendments that we're bringing to the table. So if we only need 5 to pass, then the questions that we're asking, clarifying questions, the work I did to come up with clarifying questions, I have a lot of them, are just questions to propel further digging to make sure that amendment, when it comes back for second reading, it's more complete.
Okay.
So I'd be inclined to take a vote, not table it. Either it moves to second or it doesn't.
So you're speaking against the motion. Okay. Commissioner Klein will let you speak to the motion.
I will withdraw the motion and add one more clarifying question for the sponsor. In addition to finding out how much the cost would be for ASL for all the meetings, will it be workshop? And then the whole mission creep of providing ASL for meetings, to what extent then would the deaf community then require that all meetings, all types of meetings have ASL presence for translations? This is something that I would like to have looked into.
Commissioner Landsberg, do you have any? You second the motion was withdrawn. Do you have?
Withdraw my.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Donnelly.
Yes, I would just like to observe that even though the question that Commissioner Klein is raising is excellent, I believe that this amendment as written meets the standard for reading one.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other clarifying questions, we'll take it to a vote. If you are in favor of Amendment 26-04, Amendment Proposal 26-04, qualifying for a second reading, please raise your hand.
Silliman.
Okay, so 14 affirmative votes. It does qualify for a second reading. Commissioner Garber, are you interested in soliciting co-sponsors on this?
I would like co-sponsors for this, and I would also like to defer it to a later one so I can do proper research on the cost and look into the issue that Commissioner Klein was talking about and how we would write it so it would just stay for council meetings.
Okay, thank you. Are there anyone who'd like to become a co-sponsor? Commissioner Hamlick,
Gasket.
Commissioner Gasquet, Commissioner Donnelly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Amendment Proposal 26-05. submitted by Commissioner Garber. Title, Signature Requirements for Initiatives and Referenda, as well as clarifying amendments. This amendment proposes to change Article 7, Section 7.2 Initiatives and 7.4 Referendum. This proposal lowers the requirement for verified signatures on an initiative for referendum from 10% to 8%. Determines the required number of signatures of unincorporated areas based on current data from those regions. Permits election staff to conduct random statistical sampling of signatures for verification purposes as outlined by state initiatives and referendum procedures. Purpose and policy intent of the proposed amendment. The Home Rule Charter grants the citizens of Clark County the right to initiative and referendum. Historically, no petition has advanced to the ballot since the Clark County became Home Rule Charter due to high signature threshold required. Adjusting the signature requirements from 10 to 8%, employing current data when determining the necessary number of unincorporated areas are changes instead of, let me reread that, data when determining the necessary number of unincorporated areas are changes instead of the data from the last gubernatorial elected would enhance the probability of petitions reaching the ballot. Additionally, assessing a petition with over 26,000 signatures is a challenging job that must be finished quickly. This proposed amendment would allow the election staff to utilize the state's statistical sampling program and applicable rules to identify both the quantity of signatures and which ones should be reviewed. However, this method cannot serve as the only reason to reject a petition. The charter sections affected: Article 7, Initiative and Referendum, Section 7.2, Initiatives, and Section 7.4. Referendum. Commissioner Garber, did I mostly read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you. Are there any clarifying questions, Commissioner Lagome?
Thank you, Chair. I think this amendment is great. The only thing I wanted to ask was just, how did we arrive at the 8% threshold? So if we could see maybe any data or analysis behind that specific number and why 8% is better than 10%, I would love to see that if this comes back for a second reading. So I'm not necessarily looking for an answer today. If you have one, that's great. But
there are other home rule counties that have an 8% threshold, and I thought that made sense. There are other counties that have had initiative and referenda petitions make it through to the ballot, and I believe that that number would make it possible.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chrisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question would be, with that said, I'd like to see some deeper analysis on how many that have come through Clark County would have made it if they hit the 8% threshold versus 10% threshold. I'll leave it at that because this is first reading. Thank you.
I believe that nobody has been able to even collect enough signatures and has not even moved forward to that piece. It's just a very kind of a grueling undertaking. I'm also willing to even consider adding an additional 30 days at the beginning of the process instead of 120 days to collect signatures, 150 days, because it's just, it hasn't been achievable.
Commissioner Klein.
I'm inclined to support this, but would suggest going from 4 months to 8 months to collect signatures, just increasing the time period more than just the 30 days you mentioned.
Are there any clarifying questions anyone else would like to ask? Okay, seeing none. If you are in favor of amendment proposal 26-05, qualifying for a second reading, please raise your hand. Okay, 14 affirmative votes. It does qualify for a second reading. Commissioner Garber, would you like to solicit any co-sponsors?
I would. I already have Commissioner Silliman and Commissioner Klein expressed interest also.
Okay, looks like we have Commissioner Benton as well. We have Commissioner Donnelly, Commissioner Jay, Commissioner Gasquet.
Thank you.
Okay. How many co-sponsors does that give us then?
That gives us 6 co-sponsors.
Okay. All right. We'll cap it at 6 so that the co-sponsors plus sponsors, not a quorum.
Thank you.
Okay. And would you potentially like for this to be scheduled for next week in the second reading or defer it?
I think with what we still have left to do today, we'll still be working on the rest of the first reading. I'd like to defer that so I could work with my co-sponsors to really kind of get this taken care of properly and have the research and any friendly amendments that we're willing to do.
Okay. Chris, can I ask you another question? In this particular case, as an example, a sponsor plus 6 co-sponsors, 7 commissioners, less than a quorum. Are there any guidance, concerns, or comments regarding how those 7 commissioners would communicate in, for example, addressing some of these refinements before it's brought forward to the second reading?
Well, I don't see any legal difference between communicating with 6 other sponsors and communicating with 2 other sponsors. In either case, it's not going to be public. And the possibility of a serial meeting exists. So I can say, don't have a serial meeting. You know, what you do in your conversation with a smaller group should stay in that smaller group until you come to the open public meeting and discuss it there. And under those circumstances, I think that it's permissible, but do not then talk to your fellow commissioner who is not in that group and talk about what you did. So that's my concern. And I think that might be sufficient to address it.
Thank you. Okay. With the consent of Commissioner Garber, whose amendments were assigned to the first 6, so that other commissioners can have the opportunity to hear some of their amendments move forward, we are going to defer amendment proposal 26-06 to a future meeting, and instead we will go to 26-07 with primary sponsor of Commissioner Jay, co-sponsors of Commissioner Donnelly, Commissioner Erickson, Commissioner Silliman, Commissioner Benton, and Commissioner Klein. As I mentioned earlier, in the proposed amendments for which the chair is a sponsor or co-sponsor, the readings will occur by the vice chair. Commissioner Haas, could you please do the reading for amendment proposal 26-07?
26-07. The title, Requiring Land Supply Construction Cost Analysis. This requires the Clark County publish a credible public analysis of how proposed changes to land use or construction codes could affect land supply construction costs before the county adopts such amendments. The goal is to provide information on potential economic and development impacts prior to enacting relevant legislation. The analysis is required by this section, shall be borne by the county, and may not be funded by any development-related fee, including but not limited to permit impact mitigation fees or any other fee that may negatively impact housing affordability. The intent is to promote transparency and data-informed policymaking in Clark County, Washington by ensuring that potential impacts on land supply, construction costs are evaluated before adopting land use or construction code changes. It reflects concern that the regulatory changes could contribute to the region's housing challenge and aims to help policymakers avoid actions that may worsen the housing crisis by considering economic and housing supply effects in advance. This affects Article 8. Commissioner Jay, did I read that somewhat clearly?
Thank you, Vice Chair. You did.
Okay. Are there any clarifying questions, Mr. Otagami?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just wanted to understand what credible was meant in this context, given that there's not a specific definition of, are we asking for a specific agency, for a third party? How do we determine that the analysis is credible in the eyes of this amendment?
These terms can be defined at the second reading.
I'd like to ask, when they come back, to clarify what, if any, charter counties or other counties have adopted any type of similar provision?
Yes, Whatcom County has. I can look into others too.
Okay, sure. LeBron?
I've got some real serious concern here with the fact that there are 6 co-sponsors, demonstrating that an undisclosed committee has been stood up and discussed commission business without notifying the public or the commission as a whole. Whether that's in the form of a serial meeting or a straw poll, the fact is that deliberation about commission business must happen in public. I think if we want a government that functions transparently and accountably, that can only happen if we deliberate in accordance with state law transparently and accountably. Having a single co-sponsor and bringing amendments forward for group discussion meets that requirement. Having roundtable discussions meets that requirement. We've already discussed several examples of proposed amendments where there's a clear call for further discussion to flesh out the details. That meets that requirement. So, I mean, frankly, to be presented with clear proof of closed door discussions of commission business like this is not only deeply disappointing, but also completely unnecessary. So I'd like to express the expectation that going forward, deliberation of amendment proposals need to be conducted ethically in public and before the commission as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate your thoughts there. I believe Chair Erickson addressed that at the very beginning of this and how we were going to move forward from here on. This was the first that people were coming together on it. So thank you for your concern. Mr. Chrisley?
I have a lot of questions surrounding this, but I'll just keep it to one as requested by the chair. What's the rationale behind embedding the funding source, tying the hands of future councils? And in doing so, it seems that you would just put this on to all the taxpayers to foot the bill for big business, big construction, which seems completely arbitrary and unfair. So I'd be curious to where specifically calling that funding piece out came in, and I think the public
believe
would
the
like to know
amendment
as well.
articulates the reason why as to prevent the costs to be passed on ultimately to the consumer, which is what will happen if you provide the fee to be required to be paid for by the developers. I'd also like to point out that developers built the homes that we all lived in as well.
I got a lot to say, but I'll save it for second reading.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Donnelly?
Yes, I'd like to address the question that Commissioner LeBrun asked. Of course, a very serious question.
I don't think we can at this point.
We can't. He made
I think that's
a suggestion, and at some appropriate time, I would like to respond.
okay. The chair disagrees with me.
This is
Go
an
ahead.
appropriate time. Thank you very much. we just heard some very clear legal advice as to how we're to conduct ourselves when assembling co-sponsors, et cetera. And I can attest from my own experience as one of the co-sponsors that exactly what our legal advice advised is what we did. There were no serial meetings, no group meetings, nothing that could put us in danger of going around the Open Meetings Act. So I was pleased to get that good advice, and that is what we did.
Okay, any other clarifying comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. If you're in favor of moving this forward to second reading, please raise your hand.
Eight.
Okay, it'll move forward to second reading. I would like to make a suggestion. I was going to reach out to Mr. J here. Do you want to continue on because you are next in line, or do you want time to work on this to bring forward for your second reading, and we can move on to some other sponsors so that they can have something to work on our time off also?
I would be aligned with going to other sponsors if you'd like. I wouldn't be opposed to that, and I could work on this in the meantime.
Okay, if there's no objection, then I'm going to move through the proposals to the next highlighted primary sponsor, which would be Commissioner Silliman. And I can turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Haas. I'm noting that it is approximately 6:32. We will have one, maybe two more, and then we will pivot into other agenda topics. So amendment proposal 26-10. Primary sponsor, Commissioner Silliman. Co-sponsors, Commissioner Klein, Commissioner Benton, Commissioner Jay. Title, Revised Budget Transparency and Process. Brief discussion of proposed amendment. Make proposed budget information publicly accessible in September to promote transparency and discussion. Purpose and policy intent of proposed amendment. Provide additional transparency to the county council and public about the proposed budget and revenue requirements by requiring its publication earlier in the year. Charter sections affected. Proposed edits and new section under Article 4. Commissioner Silliman, did I properly read that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any clarifying questions that commissioners would like to ask? Commissioner Alaguame.
Thank you, Chair. When this comes back for a second reading, if it does, I just want to understand what the actual proposal is here. To say, just make it publicly accessible early in the year is one thing, but I'm not understanding what the intent, I get the intent, actually. Let me walk that back. I understand the intent. I would like to see a more clear ask of whatever the proposed amendment is, if that makes sense.
Fair question. Given it was the first reading, I didn't know how extensive people were going to be in presentation. I kept the form to the form size in one page and tried to keep it as a summary, very high level view, not knowing how far you wanted to go in depth on it. But the gist of it is basically everybody's heard of, a 1,500 page spending package in Congress dropping the day before the vote. Not a lot of transparency that we can do the same thing at the county and back up the process so the public has a month or more to view it before there's a vote, just for more transparency. I'm trying to keep it a simple concept, but I do have the edits for the charter section and I can present them at the first reading.
Thank you.
Are there any other clarifying questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. If you are in favor of amendment proposal 26-10, qualifying for a second reading, please raise your hand. Okay, 13, it does qualify for a second reading. Commissioner Silliman, would you be potentially ready for this to be qualified for a second?
Later about scheduling it?
Yes. Noted. Okay.
Ditto for the rest of my amendments.
So in the interest, in the spirit of, as we discussed prior, to let other commissioners have the opportunity for their amendments to be considered and potentially work on between now and our next meeting, I would like to propose that we entertain one more amendment tonight, and that would be 26-15. And then we will pause on first readings and move on to other agenda topics. Commissioner Chrisley.
Just on the topic of these clarifying questions, I mean, I did sit down and go through all the amendments, and I have a lot of clarifying questions. Is it permissible to send my clarifying questions to the amendments lead sponsors so that they can have those, since I was limited to one clarifying question? Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be permissible.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for asking. Okay. Commissioner Adegwami?
Chair, could we not ask that we send clarifying questions to the chair and staff so that they can be entered into the record and then distributed to the sponsor?
That works just as well. The intent is to make it publicly available and then to make sure it gets back to the sponsor. Okay. Michelle, do you have any concerns about being able to accommodate that request? Okay, thank you.
Just can we make sure that, especially if they're coming this next week, if we're CCing Rebecca Messenger as well, as I will be out of town next week.
Okay. Commissioner Garber.
And I would just like to add to Michelle's statement, we need to make sure any documentation that we are giving to her is to her no later than Monday at noon. She has a very busy schedule Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and we really appreciate her, and we don't want to burn her out on the Charter Commission so soon. So please, Monday at noon.
Yep. And one last clarifying comment on that topic. So for this week, the deadline for submitting of intake forms was Tuesday. As Commissioner Garber just mentioned, that needs to be a day earlier going forward on Mondays. Okay. Our last first reading for this evening will be proposed amendment reference 26-15, primary sponsor, Commissioner Gasquet, co-sponsor, Commissioner Hamlick. Title is Ethics. Description. This amendment would clarify that the County Code of Ethics could supplement, not merely reference, state ethics laws and declare that the policy's purposes is to ensure the county government serves all residents equally. It would clarify the role of the Independent Ethics Commission to include recommending changes in legislation to County Council, managing and coordinating training and education of local officers, employees, and state and local ethics, and authority refer ethics matters to appropriate enforcement agencies. It would establish the Office of the Inspector General, which would oversee the use of public funds. The office shall have all jurisdiction to investigate, audit, and provide contract oversight while promoting efficiency, improving agency operations, and preventing and deferring waste, fraud, and abuse. The Office of the Inspector General and the Oversight Office would have resources when advisable to avoid redundancies, would share resources when advisable to avoid redundancies and inefficiencies. Purpose and policy intent. This amendment would create a more robust and independent system of accountability, ensuring that ethics provisions in our charter are clear and effective. The addition of an Inspector General's office would establish an investigative body with law enforcement capabilities that the current policy lacks. In addition to its role in ethics and enforcement, the IG, which I believe is Inspector General, just to clarify, would also create cost savings for taxpayers through the auditing process and reductions in fraud, waste, and abuse. Charter sections affected, Section 8.12, Code of Ethics, and Section 8.13, Ethics Review Commission and Oversight Office. Commissioner Gasquet, did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any clarifying questions? Commissioner Landsberg.
Okay, I talked with Commissioner Gasquet before this, and I'd like to make it on the record that I'd like her to talk to the audit section of the county auditor to see how the audits that they do are not part of what she's suggesting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jay.
I had the same question. How is it different than the county auditor? So
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Adegwami.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've heard one proposal that was similar to this in nature, and I just wanted to ask, at what point do we look to getting some sort of synthesis of all of these ideas together so that ones that are similar may lead to just one refined amendment proposal, as opposed to having two that may work their way through our process.
That the opportunity will be available. It's expected, but that will be a good topic for the charter, for the work plan subcommittee to contemplate and bring recommendations back for this body to consider. Commissioner Garber.
I would just like to reiterate that I think that Commissioner Gasquet's amendment is very similar to mine and could definitely be combined. And I would be willing to retract mine and possibly be a co-sponsor and work on that together.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Benton.
I'd just like to see a cost analysis for the second reading.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, if you are in favor of amendment proposal 26-15, qualifying for a second reading, please raise your hand.
Nine.
Okay, 9 affirmative votes. It does qualify for a second reading. Commissioner Gasquet, are you interested in having any additional co-sponsors?
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to become a Commissioner Adegwami? Okay. And Commissioner Gasquet, would you be potentially interested in having this proposal have a second reading next week?
I think I'd like a little more time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, commissioners, thank you very much. I think that was a productive first reading process. We're now going to pivot into some of our other agenda topics, starting with process for formally inviting elected officials to speak at meetings. I believe there's been multiple comments expressing interest in inviting elected officials to come to our meetings to address us, to have some time to make a presentation, and also to field questions. And unless there is any debate or opposition to that, then the call could go out, invitations to our elected officials to make themselves available, and we could provide a schedule by which they could sign up and then come in. We could give them a time to speak, and then we could have some dialogue. This would differentiate from the same people coming and participating in our open public comment, where they would have their 3 minutes, but there would be no opportunity for dialogue. This would primarily allow for us to have dialogue with them. So I'll ask first if there is any objection to that before we immediately go to the discussion or debate. Okay, seeing none, then we'll work with staff to issue invitations to our elected officials, including county council, judges, and members of the executive branch to come and speak to us. Are there any other officials that this body would like to see included in that invitation list? Commissioner LeBrant.
Not an objection, but wanted to suggest if there's any way that we can tee our invitees up ahead of time with some sort of notion of like what we'd like them to talk about, questions maybe that the group has going in, if there's any specific, whether it's clarification questions on an amendment or something like that, or if we just want them to speak generally about what they've experienced in their role, say like with the county. But the more we can tee them up, I think the more productive it'll be both for them and for us.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Commissioner Carver.
So is the plan to have an elected official speak at every meeting, and how long will we allow them to be speaking for?
Well, we can make room on our agenda of every meeting, but whether or not we have someone who's available for every meeting is to be determined. I would think that we could offer 3 to 5 minutes for them to speak, and then we open it up to question and answer afterwards.
Thank you.
This isn't intended to occupy the majority of a meeting or even a large percentage, but to let them come and make a statement, respond to questions that maybe we identify and send to them ahead of time. And then I think the real value is the question and answer period. Commissioner Adegwami.
Chair, thank you. I just want to kind of reiterate Commissioner LeBrandt's point in wanting to understand what we're asking of these elected officials who we're inviting to come and speak, whether that's, you know, if we're considering a recommended amendment proposal from a commissioner that deals with that county executive's agency, or if we're thinking that we need a more general overview, but let's just be really mindful of the value of their time and our time as a body.
Well, we could, to Commissioner LeBrandt's comment, questions that we would like for our elected officials to address could be sent to staff and the chair. And that once those officials are scheduled, then those questions could be collected and forwarded to them ahead of time. Is that what you're envisioning, Commissioner LeBrandt?
I think it's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Something like that could work. Commissioner Adegwami, any comments to add to that?
Yes, I just want to be really clear about who we're inviting and why, right? I don't think we necessarily need to speak to some elected officials that may not pertain to what we're working on as far as charter review. I think there are some who we very much probably should speak to understand how the amendments that we're proposing may impact those departments.
I think up to this point, the discussion, the interest that I've heard has been members of the council, members of the executive branch, and judges.
Thank you. That makes sense to me.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would like to see, members of the council come and talk to us because they have a provision where they can put forward charter amendments as well. So I think while this body is convened, it would be appropriate or appreciated if they would bring any ideas that they may have to us to consider since we've been convened for this period.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions, Commissioner Landsberg?
So I brought up a question on the audit function. So unless Greg Kimsey was going to come next week and answer the question, then it wouldn't be something that I think we might ask him generally. So I'm not sure when we're inviting people, obviously, if we invite the council members, their input on the salary thing would be of interest.
Yep, Commissioner Haas.
I just caution about getting too far into the weeds about individual points of proposals we're putting up there. And in the beginning, invite them to give us an overview of their thoughts, their vision, what they see for their departments and or the county. And then they would be welcome to come back and speak at, as any public person would, specific amendments in the open discussion at the beginning if they wanted to address something specifically. But asking them questions and getting far down into the weeds, I think, is going to take us into our meeting break next Thursday. So.
Okay. Just for reference, the Whatcom County Charter Review Commission, they did do as we're proposing here. There was no coordinated effort to bring in certain elected officials to correspond with certain topics or amendments that are being proposed. That was logistically unrealistic to expect that could happen. And that, as Commissioner Haas suggested, come in, talk generally, field questions, and then if they want to come back to speak to certain topics, they can do as a member of the public. Commissioner LeBrand.
If I can hitch up for another bite at the apple. I would love to hear from some of our other county electeds that we don't necessarily hear from as often, like our assessor, our clerk.
Yep.
Some of
those would be
folks.
included in the executive branch. So yep, all of them would be included. Commissioner Landsberg, you have one more comment?
Just, are we limiting it to one person coming, or are we going to just say however many say they're available next week, this week or that week?
No, we have one, maybe two speakers at a time. And so this is, we're talking about multiple meetings where would someone come and address us? Okay. Commissioner Klein.
And the time limit for the speaker is about 10 minutes. Has that been set?
What was discussed earlier, what I would propose is we give them 3 to 5 minutes to speak. The balance of the time up to about 10 to 12 minutes total would be spent in question and answer, approximately. Okay, so I asked earlier if there are any objections. I didn't see any. I'll ask again, are there any, with the clarifications that we just had, are there any objections to this? Okay, seeing none, then the executive committee will work with staff to extend invitations to our elected officials to come and speak to us in future meetings. Okay, we definitely want to have time for good of the order. We may not be able to finish the discussion, but so that it's been presented. And if there's quick deliberation, we can address that. If not, we can pick it up at a future meeting. Let's briefly touch on public comment period discussion. Michelle, could you please put that up on the screen? Okay. So commissioners, we haven't had a lot of public comment yet. But I expect that will change as we start to get deeper into specific amendments. The past Charter Review Commission had a preamble prior to taking public comment. This was read, something like this was read before each public comment period. The County Council has something similar. What you're seeing up on the screen is a merging of those two preambles. And the proposal is that going forward, that there would be a similar type of preamble that we use here in our meetings. There's a lot of content up there. So if we want to discuss this line by line, word by word, then we would have to continue that into a future meeting. But generally, is there any opposition to having a preamble of this nature in our meetings? Okay. Has anyone had time to read through this? This has shown up on prior agendas before. Commissioner Adegwame.
Chair, just a comment. One, generally in favor of this. I think many commissions and deliberative bodies have preambles like this. My only caveat would be if there's no one signed up for public comment, we don't have to read it.
Correct. Yeah, we would not read it if there's no public comment. So this would occur if we would only read this if we have public comment. So I guess I'll ask in the interest of time, is there any objection to adopting this introductory comment prior to public comment? Commissioner Klein?
Not an objection, but a clarifying question. Do we want this to be subject to the agenda content or allow for citizens to give input on what they would like for amendments, which is within the scope of the commission?
I believe the way it reads right now is it's related, comments related to the work of the commission, which is slightly different than just an open blank slate to address any topic. Also a little broader than only agenda topics.
My suggestion is if we don't have any public comments, that this doesn't need to be read.
Agreed.
But if we do.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Donnelly, then Commissioner Haas, if we aren't able to reach the appearance of consensus, then we'll defer this to a future meeting so that we do have time for good the order. Commissioner Donnelly.
Yes, I'm very interested in this point, and I do think that what is this draft is written does hit that medium good balance between being too strict and being too lenient. So I strongly support this draft.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Haas.
I support it also, and I support it not being tied to something that's on the agenda because sometimes people can't get to meetings, but they want their feelings heard for future stuff. And I think we just start picking fights with people if we don't give them their 3 minutes to at least speak. So.
Okay. Well, we'll see if there's an appetite to pass this. Is there any objection to adopting this preamble to public comment, provided that there are citizens who intend to make a public comment. Is there any objection to it in its current format? Okay, seeing none, it is adopted, and we will begin reading this at the beginning of public comment when we have folks who are signed up for public comment. Thank you, commissioners. We will defer discussion on written correspondence from public. As a preview of what that is intended to address, we have been receiving emails from the public. We want to have a discussion about how we would respond to those. And then the other topic that we will defer, meeting ground rules, as we get further into our discussions and certain amendments. We are going to propose some ground rules for how we discuss that. The last commission had similar types of ground rules, so we'll be bringing that forward for consideration. Commissioner Holgren.
May I just ask that we have that before first readings and second readings next meeting so that we can get through it and knock those off the agenda?
Can you restate your request?
Can I just ask that we have that before we do first and second readings of the intake forms or proposals at the next meeting so that we can knock them off the agenda?
Those two agenda items?
Yes.
You said, okay. Well, now that they've been mentioned, then they would technically be old business. So yes. Okay, commissioners, thank you. This has been a good meeting. In the time that we have left, we'll open it up the floor to good of the order, which we've not had the time to do in the past. So is there anyone who would like to make a comment during good of the order? Commissioner Alaguame.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to first give my thanks for taking the feedback earlier and making a change in today's meeting regarding how we handle co-sponsorships. In the spirit of transparency and public trust, I appreciate that there's collaboration that's been happening and that's healthy and expected, but co-sponsored amendments shouldn't have this many people co-sponsoring these proposals outside of public view. I don't think it's necessarily against the letter of the law for OPMA, but it definitely goes against the spirit of it. And if we're going to really focus on protecting that public trust that we have as elected officials, we should just bring that into the meetings, right? I think today was a perfect example of how we can do that well by having co-sponsors identified during the meeting. And it helps ensure that we're just protecting that public trust and reinforcing it, right? I don't think any one of us wants us to get down to the point where voters are looking at these amendments on their ballot and thinking about the process and how we got there and what might have happened outside of public view. I think we would much rather have our amendments thought of on their merits alone, right? So just want to underscore Commissioner LeBrandt's earlier comments. We need to be doing these things in full public view. We can't have secret cabals running around deciding on amendments, right? We want to avoid that perception. So it's not just about the law, but it's also about public perception that really matters when you sign up to be a public servant, right? You're subject to not just the technical compliance, but compliance with the public trust as well.
Thank you. I believe everyone here is agreeable that we want to maintain public trust and comply with OPMA. I have one comment that I'll share. In an earlier meeting, we discussed that public speaking engagements would be shared at this point of our meetings. I want to mention that myself, Commissioner Chrisley, and Commissioner Jay will be speaking at the monthly meeting of the Hazeldale Salmon Creek Business Association on March 11th over lunch. Everyone's invited, and the topic will be the Charter Review Commission. Are there any other items for good of the order? Chris, please.
Pardon me, Chair, did you say everyone's invited?
It's an open meeting. You sign up.
Is there notice to the public?
The meetings of the Hazeldale Salmon Creek Business Association don't discriminate who can attend, if that's what you mean.
Okay. Please do not invite a quorum to go to a meeting where you will be talking about the business of the commission.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification. Commissioner LeBrandt.
Mr. Chair, I might suggest if you would like to attend that meeting, it is a fun meeting because the business of the commission will likely be discussed at that meeting. It'd be good to check in with staff and make sure that there aren't already several other folks from this commission getting ready to attend. And that way you can avoid needing to go through the process of the 14-day notice
Yes.
period.
Yes, and just as something to compare, when there's some kind of public thing happening that one or more of our counselors wants to attend, I think staff generally finds out, asks if there's more than one going to attend and finds out if there will be a quorum. And if there will be a quorum, notice is issued. So that's an ongoing precedent in the county.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification. Yep, the meeting is open to the public, but for the purposes of our body, we want to make sure we don't have a quorum at the meeting. Thank you. Are there any other topics raised in good of the order? Michelle?
Can you just send me that information?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing other items for good of the order, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn. Haas.
Second? Okay. Thank you, commissioners. We're adjourned. We'll see you next week.